Hi everyone, my name is Shauna Lafasi Berry, and I work with the Career Development Team. We are thrilled to have you today for our session Beyond Features, the evolving role of product managers in 2025. You are in for a treat. This is going to be a candid conversation about the strategic future of product leadership, and you're getting an insider view from some amazing product leaders who are also alums. This is part of the community of practice for product managers that we have, which is a collaboration between alumni, students, and faculty. So we're thrilled you are here. And if you're able to go off camera, great, to go on camera. If not, we're just happy that you are joining us. And I'll turn it over to Shaked to take it away.
Thank you very much, Shauna. Hey, everyone. We're super excited to have you all here. My name is Shaked. I'm a senior product manager at Simulate AI. It's my absolute pleasure to have Eglae and Phil today with me. So let's start. Eglae, please tell me a little bit, start by introducing yourself.
Sure. So my name is Eglae. I've been in product management for about 17 years, give or take. I am an MIT Sloan alum, and so that's where my heart lies. I am originally from Argentina. That's where the accent is from. And I now live in Northern Virginia. My whole career has mainly been spent on product and financial services, but I know we'll talk a little bit more about the excitement of regulated industries in a minute.
Thank you. Phil, please introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. My name is Phil Gerity, and I'm a group product manager at Microsoft, where I have been for longer than I had planned, working in various roles, but since 2015 in product. And I lead end user experiences in AI for Windows Cloud. So there's a couple products that I can tell you about later. And I'm based in Seattle. I'm a executive MBA alum, and I did my MBA in 2023, graduating in 23. So not too long ago, and it's great to kind of be here today.
Thank you, Phil. I'll start with one of my favorite questions. I graduated from Sloan Fellows last year, and this question is the best because I think all product managers can learn the most out of it. So, Phil, let's start with you. Tell us about your product journey. How did you get into product management?
Yeah, I started out in consulting, like early on in my career, and I was glad that I did that role, but like it just felt like I wasn't building stuff and didn't have ownership over something I felt like I could really exercise my creativity. Consulting is a career where you get really good at, PowerPoint and sort of, I think, feeling like you can fake it until you can make it in whatever project you're working on, which are great skills, actually. They're wonderful, like sort of things to be able to leverage later. But I really wanted to go build something. I got into tech, into software, and I had a few roles before product. So I worked on in an area that we have called pricing and licensing, and then eventually became business planning. So I would work on like the monetization of software, and had a lot of good kind of experience doing that as well. I worked there for in that role for about four years at Microsoft. And then it was just like time for something new, and this product role came along, and I tried it and fell in love. So this was back in 2015, and of all the things I had done, up until that point in my career, product was everything I'd kind of it sort of brought everything that I'd learned before together into one discipline. And I knew pretty early on, like, this might be the last real discipline that I do. And I've the other thing that happened was I kind of got the bug to work on startup type projects inside Microsoft. So I got fortunate in that was the first type of project I worked on. It was a 0 to 1, it didn't exist, and then once you have some experience and you get good at that, then people select you for other projects. And so I've done 3 of those at Microsoft and 1 external, 0 to 1, and sometimes more than 0 to 1. But those are my favorite kinds of projects to work on, and here I am. So I'm on my 4th one today. This one I've been staying on a little bit longer. I've been on this team 6 years, which is eons for me, but it's been a really fun ride to build Windows 365 over the past few years.
It sounds really awesome. Do you find that your experience prior to becoming a product manager helped you to transition more easily, the part that you took at Microsoft before that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everything you do, like you want to kind of leverage that as much as possible, and product is kind of a combination of a few different things. You want to have kind of a strong business foundation. You want to have a technical background. You want to have, depending on your role, it might be more design oriented, front end oriented. All of these things, I think, are important building blocks of having good product sense. But I came in with a little bit more of the business part, and then I built the other two. And so I learned along the way as I was going, and nobody ever comes in fully finished. So I just learned the other two along the way. Kind of first the technical part, and then I would say over a longer period of time, I picked up the design piece. I still to this day can't design anything from scratch, but I'm a decent editor at it. So you pick up enough to be kind of dangerous.
Thank God for AI, I guess.
Yeah, thank God for AI. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Eglae, please tell us how you went into product.
Yeah, I think some similarities to Phil and some differences. When I left Sloan, I graduated in the beautiful year of 2009 with an MBA, which was probably the worst year in the history to graduate from a really good school with a really good MBA. And I thought prior to MIT, I worked in magazines, and I thought that's what I was going to do. I was going to go help things like Scholastic or others be great at understanding digitalization of publishing. I had an internship similar to that. I hated every little bit about it. And I was like, well, that's not for me. And so I actually got into financial services because somebody knew somebody that knew somebody that was looking for somebody that's willing to do work. And I was like, that would be me. And so I started my career in financial services with a lady that was amazing. And she said, you look smart. You're definitely younger than me. So you understand technology. Go fix these issues for me. Although I would have loved to say that I knew what I was doing, I had no clue. But like Phil said, you kind of learn in the job if you have the right attitude, and I did. And slowly that transitioned into, I actually like this. I think I'm good at this. This plays to my strengths of listening and paying attention and solving problems, which are really exciting for me. And then moved to a different company, moved to HSBC. HSBC called us strategy and marketing. I think I was called for a minute, and my job there was to figure out if individuals that came in through a website were more risky than a person that walked into a bank to get a credit card. And I know you guys all think I'm dinosaur right now, but that was in 2011. So it wasn't that long ago that we didn't know that people on the internet were the same people as they walked into a bank. And still wasn't called product. I was just called strategy, business strategy. Even though I was doing A/B testing, I was doing digital product. I was, like Phil said, not a great designer, but working closely with the one designer we had at the time to figure out how to set up the website, still not called product. I moved to Cap One, and Capital One, as I started my process there, maybe 2 years into my experience, they said, oh, hey, all these tech companies are doing product. We want to do product. You're kind of doing product. Here you go. Here's your label. You're a product manager. And so that's how I became a product manager, by doing all the things prior for product to be called product. So I always say that I started in product management before it had a name or it was cool to do. But it was the same idea, right? Like you grab problems, you think through them, you hopefully get a really great team to help you execute on them. Grew my career from Cap One to Freddie Mac, then Goldman Sachs, where I was head of product for investment banking. And then my last operational role was at a company called Arcadia, where I was a chief product officer. So I drove everything that was internal and external products. We had a SaaS product plus all of our internal tools. and I did the product design, financial models, and go to market for all those products. My last operational role was back in April. I decided to see the other side of the world, like Phil started with, and I'm hopefully continuing with advisory. So I've been advising both really big and really small companies, a couple publicly traded companies and a couple smaller ones, to try to figure out where the secret sauce of product is going forward. So it's been fun.
I want to highlight that you both mentioned somewhat of a entrepreneurial mindset and openness going into product. You mentioned attitude as a key component, and Phil has been very open into going into a domain he does not like. Us feeling uncomfortable is the comfortable piece for product managers. So I just wanted to highlight that the attitude piece. I guess that's the secret sauce of becoming a good product manager.
I think curiosity, right? Like if you're not curious about something that's in front of you or next to you, it's really hard to be excited about it. And if you're not excited and you're not curious, product might not be the best thing for your skill set.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. And you have to be willing to get your dirty too. I think that's now more true than it's ever been, but it kind of goes hand in being curious, you know. I think those are incredibly important traits, and curiosity isn't something that's easy to it's actually one of the things that we look for, like when we're interviewing people for the job is do they have like a natural curiosity or passion for just learning things. And it's a hard thing to get at, but it's an even harder thing to teach if you hire someone and they don't have that. So it's a very important trait kind of coming in.
Absolutely. I want to prompt you into my next question. And I put it into two pieces because I am curious. So right now, what's your favorite product? And I want you to split your answer into a non-AI product. It can be either physical or software, and an AI product. Who wants to start?
I'm happy to go first because
Go ahead.
my non-AI, you're actually seeing it. It changed my life, Yeti cups. And I know that it's not as exciting as you were probably hoping for. But I'm one of those people that likes to sip coffee and then it always got cold and I hated everything about it. And Yeti cups has changed the way I do life in the morning. And it's actually like become a thing for me where unfortunately my family knows I love them. So I always get a Yeti cup on my birthday. So we're talking about changing things for future, but I do love Yeti cups. If you wanted a digital product, also not a fun one, but extremely good at this time of the year for me. I have two kids, 11 and 8. Amazon. Amazon has changed the way that I expect things to be delivered, things to be returned, things to not be hard. And I don't know if that's good or bad, and I'm sure everybody has different ideas, but the Amazon app and the Yeti cup have made my life, I would say, 10 times better and easier, especially around the holidays.
In Amazon words, they make delightful products.
Yes, there's a reason why they're so good.
Yeah. Phil, how about you? Let's start with the non-AI
I'll go with
product, and then I'll go back to you, Eglae.
Yeah, both mine are digital. And almost every product is starting to have AI built into it. But first one is the product that keeps my life on track, which is called Todoist. So I use a third party, it's not Microsoft app, to track everything and literally like everything I put in there so that I can just keep track of it all and have it organized. It's a really nice tool because it has a simplicity to it, but you can be more complicated with it if you want. And it's very easy to keep track of. The performance of it is really good. It's on every platform, so I can get it on my phone, on my computer at work. It has a browser version, and it's very satisfying when you check off an item because you get a audible click and it sounds like a bubble popping. And they've gamified it, so you can kind of keep track of how many streaks you have, things like that. So I really like that. app a lot. It's easily probably the most used app that I have. Um, and
Plus
my
one to
AI
that.
one is Claude. Claude all day long. I use all of the AI products that I can. It kind of like I've usually got like sort of a few browsers open and they're competing with each other to see who's going to give me the best answer on different things. But for my money, Claude consistently performs every kind of task that I throw at it in a way that just feels like a cut above. So it codes, it like provides you factual answers, it does exceptional research, it does just a lot of things really well. And I think Anthropic also they have real taste.
Oh, sorry. Little drop there. Okay,
And
until he comes back. Eglae, please go
happy
ahead.
to. And it's unfortunate that he dropped because I was going to go with ChatGPT. I think I became one of the, I wouldn't say early users, but as soon as it became obvious that it was working for real, I use it all the time, although I am trying to be more conscious of my use. I don't know if that's a good thing given the topic of the conversation today. But there's a book by Brené Brown, and she talks a little bit about AI and how you have to be more deliberate and to make sure that you still do the thinking and the curiosity and the building around it. My use is ChatGPT. I've also just finished some decorations in my house, and it actually is really good with images. If you tell it what wallpaper you want and what wall, it makes it look nice. Probably not as nice as some of this stuff that is now coming out, but it was great about 9 months ago, helping me out with that stuff. So, Phil, I just said that I basically chose the one you didn't, and so in other words, all AI is great.
Actually, I would love to hear both of you maybe mentioning one thing that you did with AI that you did not think you'll ever do, with ChatGPT and Claude or a different tool.
I can start, but for me, it was around my house. Again, I was testing out the AI, but I was kind of trying to use it to a real problem. And we had a wonderful landscape person come and tell us what we should plant in the front and in the back of our house. And I tried to tell him maybe 17 times that my husband and I are terrible with gardening. We have the opposite of a green thumb. Everything we buy or put, it dies. And we're not the type of people that on Saturday mornings love to weed. Like with it, I would love to be that person. I have just learned by killing a lot of plants, I am not that person, and I don't want to kill any more plants. And so he kept on telling me all this stuff that required a lot of upkeep. And so I did love his offer. And then I literally went to ChatGPT and I was like, I live here. This is my zip code. This is how much level of effort do I want. I have seen deer, fox, and rabbits in my backyard. And like I basically gave it like my guardrails. And then I said, I want something that can live off basically the rain that we get in Virginia. And you can assume maybe I'll water it once or twice more a month. But like that's the level of effort I'm willing to commit to it. And ChatGPT honestly like told me exactly what plants to buy. When I gave it the space, it told me how many to buy. It told me how far to plant them from one and from each other. Like it was amazing. I had like my landscaping done in an hour. And actually by the end of it, I even said, could you please tell me where to buy these? Where are the best three, nurseries around where I live that would sell me the plants that you're talking about? And so I thought that was great for me. I mean, that wasn't work related. And Shiketa, if you want, I'm happy to give you a lot of work related
I actually love that.
Like,
no, we'll get there.
Solve my life problem. And that's what I love about technology is when it can be useful to you.
Exactly. And we'll get there. I do want to hear in a work related situation, but I love these type of examples because first of all, it helps us all think about what we can do with AI that we were not considering. And second, it can make our work life even better because now I can think of, something in my day-to-day work that I can use it that I was not considering because now I know it helps with plants, maybe plants for my office.
There you go.
Who knew? Yeah. Phil, thank you for joining us. So I want to take you on a ride with me. I want you to think and describe product management when you first started out. and then let's see how it evolved through the years and what we see now with AI coming up. So start by describing what it was like back then, and then we can move forward.
Yeah, so I got into it in 2015, and I think I've always been kind of interested in like the roots of it. It Actually, product management started at Microsoft. I think the first product manager ever was the product manager for Excel, and they were called program managers back then. And it was really for a long time at Microsoft, I think we held the tradition of calling people program managers, and there was an expectation of technical depth for that person. And we only changed the title of finally the title of program managers to product managers during the pandemic. I can't remember exactly what year it was, but it might have been 2022 at Microsoft. So well after the industry had. But I think, like back in 2015, it was definitely more of an administrative role in the sense that there was more project management. There was more of an emphasis on being on technical depth and on being very, very close to the engineering team that was building the product and making sure that the feature or the product was shipping on time. And so feature velocity and getting things out the door was the number one metric of success. I think that that's true at Microsoft, and the industry I think has certainly had that in its legacy, and probably was shifting a little bit earlier than Microsoft has. But I'd say since 2015 has really started to shift toward outcomes and ownership of kind of the end-to-end outcome rather than the administrative aspects. It's not that those aren't still important, and making sure that you're tracking work and progressing things, but there's a lot more of an emphasis on outcomes today across the industry than there was 10 years ago. And I think now we're kind of at another inflection point, and things are changing again.
I think you're absolutely right. Eglae, I would love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, I think when I started, I would qualify it a little bit as chaotic, like similar to what Phil said, but with an additional financial services is, I would love to say it's different, but we're always a little bit late to the curve. We're trying really hard to catch up. But what I would say was chaotic, right? Like as a product manager, even when we finally did get the title, you were trying to do a little bit of Scrum Master, a little bit of learning how to deliver fast. You were not expected to code, but be smart enough to ask questions about it. And that was kind of the first few years of my career. Was I would love it because I would wear almost every hat available to me in this new world. Two things happened obviously in tandem for me, which is I grew in my career and the industry I was in, both the financial services industry, but also, technology changed quite drastically. And I would say we became experts in a little bit, right? Like you expected product to do product very well. You expected to do Scrum Masters do Scrum. You expected engineers to do engineering. You expected designers to do design. And everybody had kind of had their work. Even though we talk about Scrum teams and everybody coming together, everybody had, accountability and responsibility for a thing, which worked great. I think as you're trying to learn and become an expert, and honestly, as a leader and manager of teams, it's great to understand clarity and sort of insight into what everybody should be doing and what does good look like. And I think now some of those lines are starting to blur again, and it's exciting because when I started, they were blurred not on purpose. They were blurred because nobody knew better. Then we kind of all got into the lean and fast and the smart ways to do things. And now it's like when you teach kids all the rules about grammar, and then you tell them you can't break them until you learn them. But once you learn them, you can start breaking them. It's kind of the same. Like I felt like I went through it was so chaotic. I didn't know what I was doing. Kind of worked out. Now I went to okay, I learned all the rules. I learned grammar. I know what to do. And now I think that the industry is at this stage where it's like, ooh, who breaks some rules? Let's see what that looks like. And it's kind of exciting because now we all have tools to break those rules. And we have experience to be way smarter about which ones to break, which ones not to break, and how to push the envelope.
I love how you think about it. because I do feel that in this new age, a lot of up and coming product managers, they might skip a couple of steps that we went through. And then I think they're going to miss this part because, like they're skipping everything directly into prompting and getting a demo instance right away. Instead of, like going through the hurdles that we have to, like stick with customers and customer is still like in the funnel. But I mean, the depth that goes into product research and trial and error, I feel like these pieces are moving away a little bit. And this is the type of change that comes our way. But yeah, I would love to hear from you guys. How do you see it evolve right now? Like, how do you see product management being done today?
Phil, do you want to go first?
Sure. I think that was the inflection point that I was talking about earlier. Like the things that that I think we're both seeing changing now is that you have access to all these tools that you can use to really accelerate different parts of the process that as a product manager you've been seeing all along, right? You've been seeing the engineering, the code getting written. You've been seeing the designers do the designs. You've been maybe yourself specking things out, going to do market research, making sure that you've got like the kinds of documents internally written so that you can influence the right people. And now you've got tools that can help you to accelerate all of those different parts of the process. You can prototype quicker. You can get through a design with your designer in your design team, but maybe a small Scrum team can, or a term we're using internally at Microsoft now are squads. You can with a very small team of 2, 3 people, get a really important head start on a project to a point where it's a prototype, it's actually working code of some kind. It can show that something is working, and then you've you can get that in front of a customer. You can just really kind of shorten the cycle times for how quickly you can get work done, but you still need taste and you still need judgment and you still need soft skills. And I think if anything, those are all more important than they used to be, because it's kind of like with superpowers, you've got to be able to control them. You have to be able to wield them and focus them on the right things. You can easily go down lots of wrong paths if you don't do that. So it's dangerous in a way because you don't want your new PMs, your junior PMs to just go out and start using these tools and not, know how. And so you kind of want guardrails in place to use them appropriately and make sure that people are building, as they're building their product sense, they're doing it in the right way. They're not skipping the steps, and they're able to then apply that to judicial use of these tools.
I agree with everything Phil said, right? Like, I think the theory behind AI, and I think there's 2 ways to think about it. One is it can automate a lot of the things that we don't think there's a ton of value in as an industry, as individuals. And then the second part is it can truly revolutionize things if you let it, right? Like, or if you change the way you process. So you can either use it for existing processes to make them faster and more efficient, or change the process overall to really be thoughtful about kind of AI first delivery. And I think most industries and even most individuals are still in A versus B. And I think it'll take some time to get used to changing dramatically. But I think I mentioned it before, right? Why do people like us get into product management? What do we like? And we like that human connection. We like the ability of somebody sharing their problems, their pain points, their insights. We like the idea of having curiosity and creativity to solve for it. We like the idea of going back 10 times and be like, have you thought about this? Have you done that? Oh my God, you say you don't mind about A, but I see you literally going around it in order to get to B. Like, there's a lot of ingenuity that technology can make you maybe be more eloquent when you're describing it to other people that weren't in the room. But that need to connect and communicate, I think it's so important. And I can't imagine what we do without that. I also can't imagine leaders, right? Like if you think about where are you in your career? Are you at the beginning or at the end? Like I haven't written a story or a PRD in 15 years, 10 years, but I have read a ton of them, and they've definitely gotten better in the last year when people are using technology because words sound better, things are crispier, there's less bullets everywhere. So like, I don't mind it. But I think in your career, like my skill set today is to lead a team, to empower them, to focus them. And the truth is, I usually have 3 minutes before most meetings to get ready for what I'm about to say. And the times that I have time to think, I actually want my voice to come out through it, right? Like I want that authenticity through leadership to really be seen. And so for certain things, I actually keep myself away from things that would maybe make me sound way smarter, but definitely a different version of myself that it's not necessarily who I am. So I think as product managers, like evaluating when is the right time to either improve a process through technology and or completely change the process because of it. And honestly, when is the time to say, actually, I want a piece of paper and a pen, and I want to figure out where that button should be in that website because it's driving me nuts. I think all of those are good answers. Like Phil said, we just need maybe a little bit more judgment to know which one to use which, or trial and error, as all product managers do, right? Like try it a few times, fail, realize that that's not the way, and go back and do it a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an up-and-coming product manager who wants to know what skills to sharpen, what would be your advice?
I think the fundamentals like are still really important. So you still want to have like the three that I mentioned earlier, I think are still valid. So there's a business aspect, a design aspect, and a technical aspect. You still want to be able to combine those three things and find the intersections between them to be really good at the job. And typically it's easier to do that if you start out a little bit more narrow in each one. So like I always encourage people, like when they're coming in and learning a feature area, just get your hands dirty, get really deep with the engineers, make sure you understand the technology behind it, how it works, why we designed it that way. And you want to then look at it through all of the three lenses, right? Like the business aspect of it, sort of what's the market for it, who uses it, and build that kind of background up as you start out, so that you're very familiar with all aspects of what you need to be familiar with the product. That's where the judgment can come in once you have that foundation. And it doesn't matter if we have AI tools to make us sort of take care of some of the low-hanging drudgery. You still have to have that judgment to be able to apply it, to know, is this a good spec that it spit out at me? Where do I need to make some edits? So that it's a little bit clearer, or maybe it went in the wrong direction here and I should just ignore that part. And if you don't do that homework and you don't have the grounding of the fundamentals, then I think you're not gonna have that base of judgment to be able to apply. And then of course, like all the tools, the AI tools, you've got to just use them. Like we were talking kind of at the top, geek out, like go build things. And I think that's the new part of this is for me is been just making sure that I and my team are using these as much as possible so that we can build that intuition about how to use them properly.
Very similar. Like for me, it's on the AI side, I think it's figuring out what they can do, and they're changing so quickly that to stay on top of them, you actually have to have your hands in them. But with that comes like prompting and being very good at prompting, and learning that prompting is not just asking a question, but providing guardrails and context and insight and sort of a lot more in order to get the answers that you're hoping for that will lead you forward. But I may sound like a broken record, like our industry is so about the human. Like you're not trying to solve a machine's problem most of the time, or most of us. You're trying to solve a human's problem through machine. And so don't forget who you're doing it for. Don't forget to spend time learning and understanding, and then use all that and use the superpower that comes with being smarter and more able and have better tools at your disposal to do bigger things and better things. But I think if we, like, I've seen a lot of people, especially new individuals, being like, oh, I don't need to do discovery because I could just ask the AI what is an analyst in Goldman Sachs feels in year 2 of their career, because, they'll read Reddit and tell me everything about it. It's not quite the same as sitting with an analyst at Goldman Sachs after a 12-hour IPO that they just worked through, and they tell you how frustrating it was to even get one slide done. Like, it may give you context, it may help you ask better questions, it may even prep you for that meeting. But there's nothing that can substitute sitting in a room or in a Zoom nowadays, but sitting comfortably and talking to a human about their problems and figuring out together the best way to solve them.
The human piece should not get away from us. That's the most important message.
Absolutely.
We should go off for this conversation with, an AI conversation, but then the human piece is the most important one. I want to give the audience a chance to send us some questions in the chat. And until I see an interesting one, I'll ask you one last question. What are other insights that we haven't covered today? For example, podcasts or any sources of information. Phil, I know that you have someone who keeps feeding you really good AI solutions, but what advice do you have for aspiring product managers? How can they become better at the age of AI?
Yeah, you want to take it first?
Yeah, I read a book called The AI-Driven Leader, and you can love it or hate it, it doesn't matter, but it actually gives you very specific ways of how to prompt. And I read this book maybe 6 months ago, and it changed the way I prompt. Like things like, I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z. Interview me one question at a time about this topic. And so like, I never thought about sort of giving my insight before listening to the machine. And I know that sounds ridiculous after I just spent 45 minutes telling you guys how important the human is, but like, bear with me, I'm also learning this technology. But it's a great book. It's not necessarily a great book overall, like super inspiring, but it's tactical. And I feel like I've been missing that a little bit about AI, where everything is very like, what could the world be versus how do I take what I have today and make it better? There's other things that I'm a part of something called Products That Count. It's a great organization and network. They have a podcast, a network, but more than anything, it's like-minded people that understand the value of product, even in a very much changing and dynamic environment. So I always tell people, find your community. When I started, it was really hard to find product managers because we didn't exist, we didn't have names, and everybody was kind of doing it differently. But now that exists, and I would say that go for it. And then, because I'm a product manager, I like to listen to both sides of the equation. So don't forget to listen why you shouldn't use AI. I think there was a great article not too long ago from MIT saying how our brain thinks differently when you're using AI versus not. Like I mentioned before, Brené Brown has this really insightful way of thinking as well about creativity and connection about using AI. So like, find your comfort in it. Like, don't, technology for most of us is what we do or how we leverage it, but there's a lot of power on learning about both sides and finding the slivers that work best for you in whichever area you choose to use them.
Excellent.
I think
Phil, how about you?
Yeah, I still think Lenny's podcast is and newsletter kind of gold standards. I like Stratechery a lot, so I still go to those for core product stuff. Those are my favorite two. And I really like Stratechery for its kind of business angle on things. I do a lot of learning, like self-learning on YouTube. That's just my preferred platform. So I'll usually I might see some social media about, oh, here's the next new model or something like that. I have a few aggregation emails that I'll get on AI news and things like that. I'll find one that's interesting and then go down the rabbit hole on YouTube. I've got a few different YouTubers that I watch, and I'll just see how they've used a tool to maybe solve a specific problem. So, for example, yeah, I use this other note-taking tool called Obsidian, and one of the things that's cool about Obsidian is that it stores all your notes in markdown files, individual markdown files, and so it like keeps all of them um, organized through a folder structure. And someone had the idea on YouTube of hooking up like Claude through an MCP server to Obsidian, and then to help that organize all these files that I had like been lazy about. And I learned how to do that on YouTube. And then it gave me the idea, oh my gosh, I can do the same thing with my photos. I can do the same thing with like all these like disparate files that are organized into different folders on different computers in different ways. And it takes me a lot of time. Like I've used Lightroom for years, and I love stuff like that where it can just like save me a tremendous amount of time. And but I've also learned a lot about evals and actually just which tools to combine to get good results that I'm on projects, particularly personal projects. I do a lot of personal projects. So built a website for my kids to organize their homework better. We did some prop bet website over the holidays with family to have fun betting on football games together. Just a few of us, and you can build something like that with Claude Code or your favorite tool like very quickly these days. And I think most of what I've learned I picked up through a combination of first watching YouTube videos and then going off and trying it myself and breaking things. And where I get stuck, I'll come back and look for more help. It's a really nice kind of way to, I think, learn about AI these days.
This sounds awesome, and I think I'm going to try it out, the Obsidian piece and connecting to the MCP server. Let's see what I come up with. Yeah, I've been really enjoying using Cursor for this type of tests and connecting to a bunch of MCP servers for the services that I'm interested in. But yeah, we became, we're all vibe coding these days, which was out of reach, but now is very much accessible thanks to AI. Okay, we have a good question here from Lily. She asks, how has AI changed your expectations on how PMs can work with their design, data science, engineering, etc.? That's a good question. Yeah.
I think my expectation has changed about speed and maturity of an idea. I expect things to have a faster turnaround. I don't expect, and I might be in the minority, I know Kid and a couple others on the call, we've had this conversation about like, can you suddenly pick up a different skill that you're not great at just because AI can allow it to you, right? Like, do you still need an engineer to do your MVP? Do you still need a designer to design? For what I've seen, the answer is still yes. Like, they are still more efficient. They are still better. They still have a sense of something that sometimes product lacks, right? Like we may know what a website looks good or bad, but we may not know exactly how to change the experience for people to check out faster and get to where they're going. So I still think there is a ton of value and diversity of thought within a team and execution with that diversity of thought. I do believe that I'm a little bit, I have higher expectations of what does a prototype look like? What does an MVP look like? How quickly can we get to it? And then how quickly can we edit from it, right? Like not only how quickly do we get from 0 to 0.5, but how quickly do we get from 0 to 3? Like, can we be better? And because I worked in financial services in larger organizations for most of my career, that's been really hard. It's been hard to execute fast. It's been hard to show change within a regulated industry even more now, right? But now I feel like this is a way for us to get faster. I do still believe there's a space for the science, data science, engineering, and everybody to play their part. It's just their part may look like instead of having 10 engineers, you have 2. And instead of having, 3 data scientists, you have 1, and they work much tighter, which I think in a way was always the idea of a squad and a lean team, which is we all kind of fed it too much and they became humongous things. But like small teams can now execute faster and better. And I have more trust that they will execute better. I still believe that everybody has a core skill set that they try to hone in their career, and we should leverage those.
Totally agree
Speed,
with that. The
definitely.
speed thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm +1 on that. I think it that's the main thing. That the people who are in those engineering design roles, they have so much more context about the systems they're working on. You can't replace that with like an AI one-shot prompt that, sort of writes them really quick code. You can just get a jump start, I think, and then they have to get involved to do it properly, to build off of that. But those jump starts are really, really useful. So yeah, I love that speed comment.
Yeah, definitely agree here. Speed and also like high fidelity, I guess. Well, it's not mock-ups anymore. It's more of a demos or um, it looks more like a design, but still leave the design for the designers, but product managers can produce better looking mock-ups, I would call them, for this use case. Great. We have 12 more minutes. Shauna, team, do you want to jump in or do you want me to ask another question?
I'll let you to ask another question. This is great, and you're doing really well. So,
um, let's see what pops up. Hmm.
Can we talk about Monica's question? Because it kind of follows up from what we just discussed, right? About
Yeah.
faster delivery does not necessarily mean faster.
Yeah,
So,
it's a good
Monica,
one.
I have two thoughts here. And again, I don't know anymore when I'm in the majority of thought or in the minority because things are moving so fast. So bear with me. But number one is just because you got quickly to concept, I'm not quite sure if we've done better from concept to scaled up product delivery features just yet. Meaning, because the sky is the limit a little bit when we do, at least where I sit, when we do kind of the mock-ups and everything else, that part is happening so quickly and so good. I still unfortunately see like a little bit of a slowdown between going from like that mock-up smart, better process to an actual delivered feature in the hands of the user. And I only say that because there seems to be like a kind of like, oh, we got there so quickly, that's great, but that's just an MVP, and we kind of broke 17 rules about our data, safety, security, and other things to get you that in 2 weeks. So now we have to go back and fix it, which is not ideal, and that's one of the places where I think process needs to change in order to match the velocity of the technology we were talking about. So number one, I don't believe necessarily just yet that things are getting to the hands of the final user that much. But two, I do think we sometimes forget that adoption is not easy. Like one of the teams that I always worked with the most for other individuals in the company to understand was our go-to-market team and the training team and the individuals that are doing the product marketing, because we think because we got something quickly, that means that every individual should be able to pick it up, right? And that's not factually true. Like I even struggle today when Outlook changes, and Phil, maybe you and I need to talk about that every day. But like, I feel like I have that new Outlook every 3 weeks, and I'm like, well, I just got used to this thing, and now and I feel like I'm actually pretty good with technology. Like this is where I sit, but still, I feel overwhelmed with something that I think should now be like so simple for me. If I need to spend more than 5 minutes figuring it out, I am done with it, right? And so that goes back to my point of like the human. Like we can't forget who you're solving the problem for, and then how do you best situate it? Like product management has always been about the carrot and the stick. The carrot is I gave you something better than you had to, so you're excited about it. And the stick is somebody's telling you you have to start using that because of X, Y, C and compliance, right? And so to bring those two things together, I think is still super important and super thoughtful. So I think as humans, we're getting better with speed. Like everybody, we're all absorbing change faster and better than we were before. So as our final user, I think we're all moving to a faster delivery. But I think as product managers and leaders, we need to be very thoughtful about, is now the right time? Like if Amazon changed, their app in the middle of Black Friday, I would lose my stuff based on what I just told you guys and know how much I leverage, right? So yes, they probably can do tiny things I won't even notice and I'd be grateful for. The big changes, you still need to think about when is the right time. Working in financial services, timing and giving time for people to feel comfortable with the change was one of the keys to success every single time.
Yeah, I totally agree. I do see that behavior of customers have not changed in terms of adoption. they still need time to process, to feel comfortable with the product. This has not changed, even though we are delivering a lot faster because I'm in a startup. So we whoosh and
Right.
but they still need time to process. And this piece is something that we have taken back, and we are demoing more because we want them to feel comfortable as fast as they can, so we could continue delivering a lot more as we want to. Please, Phil.
I completely agree with both of you. I think we've got the front end of kind of ideas to prototype accelerated, but where customers are having trouble is just all of the options that are in front of them. I mean, look at all the AI products and all the products that weren't AI products that have become AI products, because AI is infused into them. It's so much change to try and digest. And companies have processes for reasons where they go and do user acceptance testing and security pen testing and all the kinds of testing that you would want to do to make sure something is good. And that's for an enterprise. I'm talking about commercial products there. But I think even consumer products are, there's just a lot in the market right now, and it's really hard, I think, for people to digest it. And so that is one of the things. There's probably an opportunity for some, maybe another product that helps you evaluate other products, and do it in a way that you could streamline that process. Who knows?
Yes, and by the way, there are there are all these websites and tables. I've seen one that has been built using Base 44 that evaluates all all LLMs, what they provide, who is the best one right now according to these evaluation
Oh, that's
points.
cool.
Yeah, it's
That's
very
cool.
cool. I can send it over later. That's the one I've been using just to keep on top of
Yeah.
everything out there.
Base
That
44,
they,
by the way, shout out like that. That is a great product. I really
yeah,
like it. I've
yeah.
tried all the Replit and Bolt and V0, and like Base 44 nailed the whole full stack, identity and all that like in one shot. That's really nice.
And it's only one guy behind it. I don't know
Is
if
it
you know this
really?
story. One guy.
No.
The company was acquired by Wix.com. I'm a former Wix employee, so I
Oh,
continue.
that's right.
Yeah,
Oh my
and
gosh.
I
Yeah.
think it was acquired for $80 million.
Wow.
Um, he's exceptional. So
Yeah.
kudos to him.
Yeah. Must have been. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, so many good products, honestly. I feel like we can spend a full day just like naming all these tools that we use and um, uh, the things we can do with them.
I kind of
Right.
want Phil now to share his homework for his kids app so that we can all
Oh,
leverage
yes,
that.
please.
That would be amazing.
It's
Please do.
coming. I'm gonna finish it over the holidays. Yeah, it just needs a little more polish. I gotta do some security work on it. Make sure I've plugged all the holes.
There we go.
I'm not sure. Phil, was it you who told me about an app he built for his kid to do math, or was it someone else?
Uh, this one doesn't do the math for them. It might have been somebody else. This one does
Okay.
it organizes the homework. So if I'm sure most people have used Canvas, because if you're at MIT, you've used Canvas,
Yeah.
and I'm not a fan of Canvas. My kids aren't fans of Canvas, but they have to use it for their school, and so basically it just takes the homework out of there, looks at the syllabus, uses AI to like make sense of it all, puts a plan together, and then helps you like organize it week by week.
I'm gonna build one right now.
Happy to
Yeah,
test it out for you, Phil. Just tell us where.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's coming.
I think we're all walking away from this conversation with like two or three new tools that we have to go look up for resources.
After you buy a Yeti cup, though, Shauna. Just
Right,
saying.
right.
I'm looking for mine. I wanted to be part of the gang.
Oh, well, thank you, Shaked, Eglae, Phil. This was just sharing your insights with our PM community. It just makes our community richer. So thank you. And I want to thank everyone who joined today. I see some alums that I know from coaching. Also want to give a shout out to the PM Club leaders, because once you shared this event with your members, it really you guys really you spread the word and you are good evangelists for product leadership. So Thank you. I put a couple of links in the chat. One, we'd love your feedback. We continue to host other events in the spring, but we'd love any insights or information you want to share about what you'd like to see. Also, there's a LinkedIn group. I literally just posted a director of product role on there. So, other alums are posting jobs that they're hiring for. This is also a great place to continue the PM conversation and ask questions. It's a place for our community to gather. And then finally, we do have a community of practice webpage with a lot of career resources. So feel free to check that out. And thank you again.